often hides behind a badge, mistaking quiet strength for weakness. In a southern town burdened by old wounds, local law enforcement assumes their power is unquestionable and that a grieving black family can easily be silenced. To them, the man they took was just another troublemaker, leaving behind broken loved ones. But beneath the surface, his brother, a highly decorated military commander, returns with unwavering discipline and a vow to protect his family. As intimidation grows, this family is pushed to stand their ground, sparking a confrontation that will shake the very core of the town and show that what looks fragile can be far stronger than anyone imagined. Before we dive in, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and hit subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you won't want to miss. The morning sun scorched Eastridge, Mississippi, making the air thick and heavy. Inside the Taylor home, the hum of air conditioners barely cut through the heat. The living room, usually warm and inviting, felt cramped today, filled with mourners dressed in black, moving like shadows. Sharon Taylor stood in front of the hallway mirror, hands shaking slightly as she fastened a pearl necklace. Marcus's last Christmas gift. Her reflection showed deep shadows under red, tired eyes, a testament to countless sleepless nights. Around her, relatives quietly set food on the dining room table, their hushed voices a gentle background to her sorrow. Her niece, Aunt Sharon, appeared at her side with a glass of water. "You haven't had a sip all morning." Sharon nodded but didn't drink. Her eyes wandered to the family photos on the wall, Marcus's smile shining from every frame. Their wedding, school events, coaching little league games. Those images now felt like knives twisting in her heart. The doorbell rang again, and more neighbors came in, each carrying covered dishes and heavy hearts. Mrs. Johnson from next door wrapped Sharon in a comforting embrace, her familiar lavender scent mingling with the smell of freshly baked cornbread. "We're all here for you, sweetheart," Mrs. Johnson whispered, her voice thick with emotion. The whole community stood united with the Taylors. Sharon's thoughts drifted back to that terrible night, the memory sharp and raw. The cell phone video had spread like wildfire. Marcus's final moments played out for the world to see. She still heard the screech of tires, saw the red and blue lights flickering on the rain-soaked street. The footage showed everything. Marcus calm, hands clearly on the steering wheel. Officer Brad Miller, tense and aggressive, barking orders with his hand already on his weapon. "I said, get out of the car now." The officer's voice was harsh. Marcus answered steady, despite his fear. "Officer, I'm reaching for my registration, just like you asked." Then came the shots. Screams erupted. The shaky camera followed as a witness ran closer, capturing Miller standing over Marcus's motionless body. No attempt to save him. "They say it was justified," someone whispered in the kitchen, pulling Sharon back to reality. 3 shots at point-blank range, and they call it justified? Another voice hushed the room. "Now's not the time." But the line between grief and anger was impossible to cross. Outside, small groups gathered on the sidewalks, some holding handmade signs. A local news van had been parked for over an hour, its satellite dish pointed skyward like a silent accusation. Marcus's sister Lisa approached, gently adjusting Sharon's collar. "Protest organizers promised to keep their distance during the service," she said softly, but a crowd was already forming at the courthouse. Sharon remembered Marcus's last words, spoken with concern over the mounting tensions between police and the black community in Eastridge. "Someone needs to build bridges," he had said, fearing things would only get worse. And now, they were living his worst nightmare. In the kitchen, Marcus's mother sat quietly, accepting hugs from a steady stream of visitors. Her face was calm, but her hands tore a tissue into tiny pieces, letting them fall like snow into her lap. The room buzzed with whispered memories. "Remember when Marcus helped my Johnny get into college? Did you hear how he stopped those two boys fighting in the cafeteria? That man spent his own money buying supplies for kids who couldn't afford them. Each story was a testament to the life stolen, one devoted to lifting others up, promoting peace, and showing children a better way. A sudden noise outside drew Sharon to the window. More police cars had arrived, their presence casting a shadow over the crowd. Officers stood loosely in formation, hands resting too casually near their weapons. "It's time," Lisa said, checking her watch. The cars were ready. The family began moving toward the door, a solemn line of black suits and modest dresses. Sharon's son, Marcus Jr., took her arm. His young face set with fierce determination, he looked so much like his father, it was almost unbearable. Outside, the thick humidity clung to them like a heavy blanket. The funeral procession stretched down the block, dozens of cars with headlights on, ready for the short drive to Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church. Sharon settled into the lead car, catching sight of more police vehicles stationed at the intersection, watchful, silent, and waiting. Their presence felt less like protection and more like a looming threat, a stark reminder that the system which took Marcus's life still held its grip firmly. The driver closed her door with a quiet click, and Sharon clutched her purse tighter, feeling the weight of the folded program inside. Marcus's face smiled back from the cover, his school ID photo chosen for its professionalism, the very same image the news had used alongside the body cam footage of Officer Miller. The procession slowly began, winding through the streets of Eastridge like a dark ribbon. In Sharon's rearview mirror, she spotted the church spires rising against the morning sky, with crowds already gathering on its steps. More officers stood watch, their badges catching the sunlight as mourners filed past with bowed heads and lifted spirits. The ancient wooden doors of Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church creaked open as the mourners entered. Sunlight streamed through stained glass, scattering colorful patterns across the sea of black-clad figures. The familiar scent of worn hymnals and lemon polish filled the air, mingling now with the sweet aroma of funeral flowers framing the altar. Sharon took her seat in the front pew, her mother-in-law's hand gripping hers tightly. Marcus Jr. sat stiffly beside them, his Sunday suit already wrinkled from the heat. The choir began to sing, "Amazing Grace," their voices rising to the rafters beneath the slowly turning ceiling fans. The casket lay open at the front, surrounded by white lilies and photos of Marcus coaching basketball and celebrating graduations, always with that gentle smile that had made him a beloved mentor. Sharon couldn't bear to look directly at it, instead focusing on the program in her lap, its edges worn from her restless fingers. Suddenly, a shift rippled through the room. Officer Brad Miller appeared in the doorway, his uniform crisp and gleaming. Two other officers flanked him, faces set in what they probably believed were respectful expressions. A wave of tension swept through the congregation as Miller strode down the aisle, choosing a seat near the center where he was clearly visible. The choir faltered for a moment but pressed on. Mrs. Peterson, the lead soprano, closed her eyes tighter, her voice soaring louder, as if trying to drown out the discomfort of Miller's presence. "The nerve of him," someone whispered behind Sharon, "coming here like he belongs." Miller's voice cut through the music, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Guess he won't be counseling troubled youth anymore," he snickered. Sharon's hands trembled. Marcus Jr. stiffened beside her, jaw clenched in a way that painfully mirrored his father's. Reverend Williams stepped to the pulpit, his deep voice steady as he began the service. "We are gathered here today to honor the life of Marcus Taylor, a man dedicated to uplifting others." Suddenly, a sharp click echoed, a phone camera capturing the moment. Miller held up his device, deliberately taking photos of the open casket. His fellow officers shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. "Gotta document this for the boys back at the station," Miller said, voice loud in the quiet church. "They'll want to see how peaceful he looks now." Gasps and murmurs spread through the congregation. Deacon Johnson half stood, but was gently pulled back by his wife. The choir director's hands trembled as she led the singers into "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." Sharon felt anger and grief rise in her throat like a silent scream. Marcus's mother squeezed her hand tighter, her wedding ring pressing sharply into Sharon's fingers. "Look at them all, acting so holy," Miller whispered to his companions, as if he were some kind of saint rather than just Officer Miller. Reverend Williams interrupted firmly, his voice calm but commanding. "This is a house of God." Miller smirked and leaned back in the pew, arms stretched across the bench. His badge caught the sunlight, a mocking reminder of the power he held. The service went on, but the damage was done. Every story of Marcus's kindness, every tribute to his dedication to students, was overshadowed by Miller's presence and his occasional snorts of derision. When Marcus's former students rose to sing "Bridge Over Troubled Water," his favorite song, Miller pulled out his phone again, typing loudly. The clicking of keys echoed like sharp interruptions against the children's voices. Sharon struggled to focus on the memories. Marcus staying late to help students with college applications, organizing food drives, mediating conflicts with endless patience. But Miller's voice pierced through. "Guess he should have shown more respect for the law," he muttered during a eulogy. "Might still be here if he had." After what felt like an eternity, Miller and the other officers stood, stretching with exaggerated casualness, disrupting the solemn atmosphere. As they left, Miller's laughter echoed through the high ceilings, followed by the heavy thud of the church doors closing behind them. The congregation sat in stunned silence for a moment. Then something inside Sharon broke. A raw, primal sob escaped her throat. Marcus Jr. wrapped his arms around her as she doubled over, her tears soaking into his suit jacket. Around them, whispers began to spread. "This isn't right. Something must be done. We can't let this go." Mrs. Johnson leaned forward from the pew behind them, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and resolve. "The Lord sees everything," she said, "and so did everyone in this church today. Justice will come." The choir director raised her hands, leading the congregation in song, "We Shall Overcome." Hundreds of voices lifted together, carrying decades of pain and hope in every note. Sharon rocked gently in her son's embrace as the powerful voices swelled around them. A promise, a prayer. Outside, the afternoon sun beat down mercilessly as mourners spilled from Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church. The heat had climbed during the service, but now the humid air crackled with more than just temperature. Police cruisers lined the street, lights off, but their presence impossible to ignore. Officer Miller stood with his colleagues nearby, still smirking as he showed something on his phone. The sight of him pushed the crowd's simmering anger to a boiling point. "Murderer!" someone shouted. The cry was quickly taken up by others, swelling into a chorus of pain and fury. The officers shifted, hands moving toward their belts. Miller's smirk grew wider as he stepped forward, badge glinting in the sunlight. "Y'all better be careful now," he called out. "Wouldn't want any more unfortunate incidents." Sharon clutched Marcus Jr. tighter as the crowd surged forward. Reverend Williams tried to calm everyone, but his words were lost in the growing chaos. Signs that had rested quietly during the service now rose high. Justice for Marcus, Black Lives Matter, stop police violence. "Back up," an officer ordered, unclipping his holster. The sudden move sent a wave of panic through the crowd. Some stepped back, others pushed forward, creating a dangerous tension. "He killed my Marcus in cold blood," Sharon's mother-in-law cried out, voice breaking. "And now he mocks us in our own church." Tension snapped. A water bottle flew through the air, missing Miller but smashing against a police car. Officers drew batons, and the roar of the crowd grew deafening. Then, cutting through the noise, came the sound of steady boots on pavement, measured, purposeful steps. The crowd instinctively parted as a figure in crisp military dress approached from the street. Aaron Taylor moved with calm authority, his Delta Force uniform immaculate, his expression composed but focused. He stopped between police and protesters, commanding attention without demanding it. "Brother," Sharon whispered, relief flooding her voice. Aaron scanned the scene with a trained eye, taking in every detail. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly across the church steps. "I understand everyone's anger," he said. "I feel it too. That man took my brother's life." Miller's smirk faltered as he registered Aaron's words, the military uniform, the unmistakable family resemblance to Marcus. But Aaron raised a hand toward the gathering tension. This is exactly what they want. They want us angry, disorganized, violent. They want an excuse. He turned slowly, addressing both sides. "I've spent my life fighting for this country. I've seen what happens when anger overtakes strategy, when rage replaces discipline." The crowd grew quiet, hanging on every word. Even the officers seemed unsure how to respond to this unexpected presence. "Marcus believed in education, in unity, in lifting each other up," Aaron continued. "He wouldn't want blood spilled in front of his church. He'd want us to be smart, to stand together, to use our minds and hearts, not fists." Reaching into his pocket, Aaron pulled out a small notebook. "I want everyone here to write down what you saw today. Times, words, actions. We're building a case, not a riot. We're going to use the system against itself." People nodded. Pens were passed around. Phones came out to record his words. "If you have video from today, preserve it. If you witnessed harassment, document it. We're going to do this the right way." Aaron's voice grew stronger. "Because when we win, and we will win, it will be permanent. It will be legal. It will be just." The tension began to ease, replaced by purpose. Groups formed, exchanging contacts and comparing notes. A young law student stepped forward, offering to help collect statements. Miller and the officers retreated to their vehicles, their earlier bravado deflated by this turn of events. As they pulled away, Aaron's steady gaze followed them. Sharon stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Aaron wrapped her in a firm embrace, careful not to crush his uniform. "I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner," he whispered. "But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Marcus Jr. joined them, and Aaron placed a steady hand on his nephew's shoulder. "Your father was the best of us," he said quietly, "and we're going to make sure the whole world knows that." The crowd began to disperse, calm but purposeful. Phone numbers were exchanged, meetings scheduled, and a network started to form. Where chaos had reigned, Aaron brought direction. Where there had been helpless anger, he offered hope. "We'll start tomorrow," Aaron told Sharon, his arms still resting on her shoulders. "Every piece of evidence, every witness, every legal option. They thought they could mock us in our grief. They're about to learn what real strength looks like." The church steps slowly cleared, leaving behind not the violent scene the police had anticipated, but something far more threatening to their unchecked power. An organized community ready to fight with truth and the law, not fists and fury. Evening settled over the Taylor family home like a heavy blanket. The dining room, with its familiar wallpaper and worn chairs, felt different, emptier, even with people gathered. The quiet clink of silverware against plates punctuated the silence as Sharon set a casserole dish on the table, one of many brought by church members after the service. Aaron sat at the head of the table, a seat Marcus had once claimed. The shift felt wrong, but necessary. His military bearing was present even in this intimate setting, as if his training wouldn't allow him to fully relax. Marcus Jr. pushed his food around his plate, while Mama Taylor dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. "You need to eat something, baby," Sharon urged softly, reaching over to touch her son's hand. He nodded but didn't lift his fork. The TV hummed quietly until a familiar name caught their attention. Aaron reached for the remote and turned up the volume. "In the officer-involved shooting of Marcus Taylor," the news anchor reported, "the police department maintains that Officer Brad Miller acted within protocol when Taylor allegedly reached for his waistband during a routine traffic stop. However, body camera footage appears to contradict that claim." Mama Taylor's voice cracked. "My boy never reached for anything. He had his hands up. Aaron muted the TV, jaw clenched tight. They're spinning the story using the same old playbook. He turned to Sharon. You said there was bystander video? Sharon nodded, hands trembling as she pulled out her phone. Mrs. Johnson's daughter recorded it from their porch. It shows everything. Marcus with his hands clearly visible, Miller shouting conflicting orders. She couldn't finish. A knock at the door startled everyone. Sharon's neighbor, Patricia, stood there holding an envelope, face drawn with worry. This was stuck in your screen door, she said. I saw that awful Miller putting it there about an hour ago. Sharon opened the envelope, her face paling as she read. They say we're 3 months behind on rent. That's impossible, Sharon said, voice steady despite the shock. I have all the receipts, every payment. Aaron took the notice, scanning it quickly. The letterhead was from a management company he'd never heard of. When was the last time you dealt with the original landlord? He asked. 2 weeks ago, Sharon replied. He came by to fix the back door. Never mentioned selling or switching management. They're trying to push us out, Aaron said quietly but firmly. Classic intimidation tactic. First the funeral, now this. Mama Taylor began to cry softly. My boy built a life here. 20 years in this house. His children were born here. Aaron moved to his mother's side, kneeling beside her chair. His strong hands gently enclosed her smaller ones. Listen to me, Mama, he said. They think they can break us. They think if they push hard enough, we'll run scared. But they don't know who they're dealing with. I have all the bank statements, Sharon said, her teacher's organizational skills kicking in. Every receipt, every interaction, documented. I keep everything. Good, Aaron nodded. That's exactly what we need. Documentation, evidence. They're used to people being too scared or overwhelmed to fight back properly. Marcus Jr. spoke for the first time since the funeral. Dad always said to keep records, said it was important, especially for us. Aaron smiled sadly at his nephew. Your father was a smart man. He knew the game they play. Now we're going to use everything he taught us. The family worked quietly to clear the table, trying to hold on to some sense of normalcy. Sharon packed leftovers while Mama Taylor supervised Marcus Jr. loading the dishwasher. Aaron checked the locks on all the windows and doors, his military training making the security sweep automatic. Night had deepened, but streetlights cast a soft glow over the yard. Voices drifted up from outside, familiar, unwelcome voices. Did you see them all scrambling to write things down? Miller's mocking tone carried clearly through the window. That soldier boy thinks he's going to come in here and shake things up. Probably some desk jockey playing dress up. Bet he ain't never seen real action. Aaron's fists clenched at his sides, knuckles white with controlled rage. The irony of Miller's words might have been funny if the situation weren't so serious. 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq, and countless classified operations. Aaron Taylor was far from inexperienced. Aaron had seen more action than Miller could ever imagine. Should we run the tags on his rental? One officer asked. Maybe find something interesting. Already on it, Miller replied. Gonna show these people what happens when they don't know their place. By the time we're done, there won't be a Taylor left in Eastridge. Aaron's military training kept him steady. Every instinct screamed to confront them, but he focused on his breathing, using techniques honed in far more dangerous situations. The enemy was revealing their strategy. Let them think they had the upper hand. Through the window, Aaron watched Miller flick his cigarette onto the lawn, then climb into his patrol car. The vehicle pulled away slowly, deliberately, a predator's casual exit meant to intimidate. The sun rose over Eastridge's horizon, painting the sky with soft orange and pink hues. Aaron walked down Main Street, his boots clicking against the cracked sidewalk. The humid morning air pressed in, but he kept his steady stride, eyeing every storefront with careful attention. Miss Ruby's Soul Food Kitchen, usually bustling by now, stood quiet with its lights off. Aaron knocked. After a moment, Ruby Wilson's weathered face appeared, her usual warm smile replaced by worry. Commander Taylor, she said, unlocking the door. I was hoping you'd come by. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee and biscuits lingered, but the tables were empty. Ruby led Aaron to the counter where citation papers lay scattered. 3 health code violations yesterday, she said, voice trembling with anger. In 30 years, I never had one. Then, right after your brother's funeral, suddenly they find all these problems. Aaron picked up a citation, reading aloud, improper food storage temperatures. But your refrigerators are new? Brand new, Ruby confirmed. Installed last month. That officer, Miller, came in with the health inspector, she explained, kept touching things, moving stuff around. When I tried to stop him, he threatened to arrest me for interfering. Aaron pulled out a notebook and began writing. Did you get their badge numbers? Time of inspection? Got it all, Ruby said, pulling out her phone. My granddaughter taught me to record everything. Got some video before they made me stop. 2 doors down, Johnson's Hardware told a similar story. Mr. Johnson, who gave Marcus his first summer job, stood amid ransacked shelves and broken glass. They said it was a routine inspection, he explained, pointing to overturned paint cans and scattered tools. Claimed they got an anonymous tip about illegal weapons, tore the place apart. Found nothing, of course, but look at this mess. It'll take days to clean up. Aaron documented everything, dates, times, officer names when he could get them. His military training showed in precise notes and careful questions. Each business owner's story added another piece to the puzzle of systematic harassment. At Big Earl's barbershop, the situation was worse. The front window was shattered. Spray-painted slurs scarred the brick walls. Earl Thomas Jr., who had cut Marcus's hair since he was a boy, stood outside sweeping up glass. 3rd time this week, Earl said, voice heavy. Police drive by, see the vandalism, do nothing, file a report, say they'll look into it, but we all know better. Aaron helped Earl sweep, drawing curious neighbors out of their homes. They shared stories of recent harassment, expired tags that weren't expired, noise complaints for quiet gatherings, sudden building code violations. Sharon arrived as Aaron finished his notes outside the barbershop, carrying 2 cups of coffee, handing one to her brother-in-law. I saw the photos online, she said quietly. Miller posted that picture from the funeral, called it his trophy. Her hands shook as she sipped coffee. Aaron's expression stayed calm, but his grip tightened. How are you holding up? Scared, Sharon admitted, but mostly angry. Marcus spent his whole life building bridges in this community. He believed in making things better from the inside. Now look at what they're doing to everyone who supported him. They watched as Earl's teenage son arrived with cleaning supplies, determinedly scrubbing the hateful words off the wall. Others began to gather, offering help and support. This is what they don't understand, Aaron said, gesturing to the growing crowd. They think fear and force equal power, but real strength. He nodded toward the people working together. Real strength is in unity, in refusing to break. Sharon touched the Saint Christopher medal she wore, Marcus's medal. But how do we fight this? They have badges, guns, the whole system behind them. We fight smart, Aaron replied, showing her his notebook. Every incident documented, every procedure violated, every abuse of power tracked. They're used to working in shadows, counting on silence and fear. We're going to shine a light so bright they won't have anywhere to hide. A police cruiser rolled by slowly. The officer inside watched the gathering crowd with obvious suspicion. Aaron stepped subtly between the cruiser and Sharon, his protective instincts automatic. I promised Marcus something once, Aaron said after the cruiser passed. When he first started teaching, he told me about the challenges his students faced. The profiling, the harassment, the constant pressure. Aaron promised Marcus he'd always have his back. Sharon watched as more neighbors arrived, bringing paint to cover the hateful graffiti. He knew you did, Sharon said softly. Even when you were deployed, he said his big brother was watching over us. Aaron's voice held a weight of guilt. I wasn't here when he needed me most, but I'm here now, and I promise you, Sharon, I will get justice for Marcus. Not just legal justice, but real change. They won't hurt our family or community anymore. The morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the street. Earl's son had nearly finished cleaning the wall, while others organized repairs for the broken window. The community's response to hatred was rebuilding, supporting one another and refusing to be intimidated. Sarah Kimmel's home was a testament to her life's work. Floor-to-ceiling shelves lined with well-worn law books surrounded the retired judge as she sat in her favorite armchair, tea cooling beside her. Erin laid out the morning's findings on her coffee table. Systematic harassment, Erin explained. Every black-owned business that supported our family has been targeted. Health code violations, building inspections, police searches, all within days of Marcus's funeral. Sarah adjusted her glasses, her silver hair catching the afternoon light. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore. But that's good for us. Arrogance makes people sloppy. She stood and pulled thick binders from a shelf filled with local legal records. The key is documentation, she said. Not just the incidents themselves, but the pattern. Show me what you've gathered so far. Erin showed her the video from Ruby Wilson's health inspection. Miller's fingerprints all over it. He's personally involved in most of these incidents. Classic intimidation tactics. Sarah nodded knowingly. I've seen this before. In 1992, when we tried to integrate the school board, the same playbook. Systematic pressure, selective enforcement, paper trails to justify harassment. She spread the binders across the table, years of meticulously organized records laid bare. But here's what they don't expect, Sarah said. We're going to build our own paper trail. Every incident, every witness, every violation. We need eyes and ears everywhere. Erin leaned in. I have people ready to help. Veterans, church members, business owners, but they need protection. Sarah handed him a stack of small cameras. Perfectly legal to record in public spaces. Get them to trusted community members. Document everything. She smiled slightly. I may be retired, but I still have friends in useful places. They spent the next hour mapping strategy. Sarah's legal knowledge complemented Erin's tactical training. They pinpointed key surveillance spots, created communication networks, and set up secure evidence storage. We'll need trusted people, Sarah stressed. Miller has informants. We can't risk evidence disappearing. Erin nodded, thinking of faces he could rely on. Mrs. Anderson at the post office, who sees everything. Earl's son James, skilled with computers to help set up secure storage. Reverend Pike, to coordinate through the church network. Sarah approved each name, adding others from decades of community work. Remember, she said, this isn't just about catching them in the act. We need to prove the pattern, show how these incidents connect. They moved to her study, where Sarah pulled out city planning maps and property records. Follow the money, she advised. Every corrupt system leaves a paper trail. Miller's just a foot soldier. We need to find who's really pulling the strings. Erin studied the documents, spotting patterns with his military precision. These properties, Sarah pointed out, all purchased within months of each other, right after the new police chief took office. Exactly. She pointed to businesses forced to sell after repeated citations, properties rezoned overnight, always bought by the same hidden shell companies. The afternoon slipped into evening as they built their plan. Sarah made fresh tea while Erin contacted trusted community members, setting up meetings, establishing code words, and safety protocols. We have to be smarter than them, Sarah said, watching Erin organize their materials. They have badges and guns. We need ironclad evidence and public support. Erin's phone buzzed with messages from allies. Mrs. Anderson reported unusual police activity near the church. James sent links to secure cloud storage. Reverend Pike confirmed Sunday's prayer meeting, their cover for volunteer training. This is how we fight, Erin said firmly. Not with violence, but with truth. Every move they make, we document. Every abuse of power, we record. We build a case so strong they can't ignore it. Back at his house, Erin cleared space in his garage. He hung a large map of Eastridge, marking incident locations with red pins. Strings connected related events, creating a web of corruption. Timeline cards detailed dates, times, witnesses, and evidence. Sarah had given him copies of key documents, now organized chronologically, a growing archive ready to expose the truth. Property records, police reports, business licenses, pieces of a puzzle slowly coming together. Aaron added photos from his morning visits, each capturing another face of systematic harassment. His garage wall transformed into a command center, a visual testament to the battle ahead. Aaron stepped back, studying the web of connections. Miller's name appeared repeatedly, but he wasn't acting alone. Other officers, city officials, and business owners were all part of a larger network of corruption. His phone buzzed again. More community members signing up to help, more eyes watching, more evidence being gathered. Aaron carefully added their names to his trusted contacts list, using the code system Sarah had suggested. The wall wasn't just telling the story of Marcus's death, it revealed years of ongoing oppression. Every pin, every string, every document peeled back another layer of injustice. But now, they finally had a plan to expose it all. Before sunrise, Aaron began his rounds. His military discipline showed in his methodical approach, notebook ready, phone camera recording, moving through East Ridge in a careful grid pattern. Every interaction between police and civilians caught his attention, especially in predominantly black neighborhoods. Outside Thompson's grocery, 2 patrol cars blocked the entrance. Aaron watched from his parked car as officers stopped customers, checking IDs and searching bags. He documented everything: times, badge numbers, license plates, eyewitnesses. "This is the 4th time this week," Mrs. Thompson said as the officers left. Her hands trembled as she straightened up, accidentally knocking over a display. "They say they're looking for shoplifters, but they only stop black customers." Aaron helped her clean up, his phone still recording. "Have you kept records of previous visits?" he asked. "Every single one." She pulled out a thick notebook from under the counter. Times, dates, officers, just as Aaron requested. By mid-morning, news vans appeared on Main Street. Aaron had reached out to national media, sharing initial evidence of systematic harassment. Reporters interviewed residents, capturing stories of police abuse that had been ignored for years. "This isn't random," Aaron explained to a CNN reporter, showing her his documented patterns. "Look at these citations. Black-owned businesses received 85% of health code violations in the past year, despite representing only 30% of local businesses." The reporter's eyes widened as she reviewed his evidence. "And you can prove this pattern?" she asked. Aaron nodded, pulling up more data on his tablet. Every incident documented, verified, cross-referenced. Testimonies, videos, official records, all showing a targeted campaign. Throughout the day, more community members came forward. A line formed outside Reverend Pike's church, with people eager to share their stories with journalists. Aaron coordinated with Sarah Kimmel, ensuring each testimony was properly documented and verified. "They gave me 3 tickets in one day," an elderly woman told NBC News, holding crumpled citations. "Said my garden gnome violated city codes. It's been there for 20 years. Never a problem until I put up my Black Lives Matter sign." The police response was swift and aggressive. More patrol cars arrived, officers filming protesters and taking notes. Aaron watched as they photographed license plates parked near the church. "Stay calm, stay organized," he reminded the crowd during an impromptu meeting. "Document everything. Use your phones, but keep your distance. Don't give them any excuse." By afternoon, the story had gone viral. Social media exploded with videos from East Ridge. Residents shared their experiences using hashtags Sarah had suggested, creating a digital timeline of abuse. Officer Miller and his colleagues grew more confrontational. They parked outside black-owned businesses, running unnecessary ID checks on customers. Aaron's network of observers reported each incident, building their case stronger by the hour. "They're trying to intimidate us," Aaron told Sarah during a quick meeting. "But all they're doing is giving us more evidence." Back in his garage command center, Aaron updated the wall map. New pins marked police harassment locations, drawing clear patterns of targeted enforcement. Red strings connected related incidents, revealing coordination that couldn't be coincidence. James, Earl's tech-savvy son, helped secure their digital evidence. Everything's encrypted, he explained, setting up automated backups. Even if they seize our devices, they can't get into the cloud. Local business owners shared security footage documenting police misconduct. Aaron collected statements from former officers who had left the force in disgust. Each new piece of evidence strengthened their case, exposing a department steeped in racism and corruption. "The world needs to see this," a Washington Post reporter said while reviewing Aaron's files. "This isn't about one incident, it's systematic oppression caught on camera." As evening fell, tension gripped the streets of East Ridge. Police cruisers circled protest gatherings, their lights flashing. Officers stood in threatening formations, hands resting on their weapons. But Aaron's training had prepared the community well. "Don't react," he reminded protesters through their secure messaging system. "Record everything, stay peaceful, let them reveal their true colors." Meanwhile, in Sarah's study, Aaron carefully uploaded the day's evidence. Multiple secure copies were stored across different servers, everything backed up, verified, and ready to be released if needed. "Each folder is time-stamped and authenticated," James confirmed, double-checking their security. "We've got redundant backups. They can't bury this anymore." The wall of evidence in Aaron's garage had grown. Photos, documents, testimonies, transcripts, a damning collection of proof. He added the day's new incidents, each strengthening their case against the department's systemic racism. Mrs. Anderson called with updates from her post office vantage point. Reverend Pike reported increased surveillance around the church. Community members kept watching, recording, documenting, just as Aaron had trained them. At his laptop, Aaron organized the final files. Videos showed clear patterns of harassment. Spreadsheets revealed discriminatory enforcement statistics. Official documents exposed coordinated targeting of Black residents and businesses. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Aaron encrypted the last files and sent them to secure storage, knowing they were ready for whatever came next. The digital alarm clock read 2:17 a.m. when the phone rang, shattering the quiet of the Taylor home. Sharon jolted awake, heart pounding. She reached for her cell phone with trembling hands. "Hello?" Her voice wavered in the darkness. "Get out of East Ridge while you still can." A distorted voice growled, "Your husband didn't listen. Look what happened to him." Sharon's breath caught. The phone slipped from her grasp, clattering to the hardwood floor. Aaron, sleeping in the guest room down the hall, appeared in her doorway seconds later, alert and ready. "Sharon, what's wrong?" He crossed the room in 3 quick strides and switched on the bedside lamp. She couldn't speak at first, only pointed to the phone on the floor. Aaron picked it up and checked the call log. "Blocked number," he muttered, jaw tightening. Sharon wrapped her arms around herself, shivering despite the warm night air. "They threatened me, mentioned Marcus." Her voice broke on her late husband's name. Aaron sat beside her on the bed, wrapping a protective arm around her shoulders. "Tell me exactly what they said." As Sharon recounted the brief call, Aaron's expression hardened. He pulled out his phone, sending quick messages to his network of supporters. "We're going to trace that call," he assured her, "and I'm setting up surveillance cameras tonight. No one gets near this house without us knowing." Sharon leaned into her brother-in-law's steady presence. "I keep thinking about Marcus, how he faced threats like this alone." "You're not alone," Aaron said firmly. "I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." They sat in silence for a few minutes, the ceiling fan spinning lazily above them. Then Sharon's phone chimed with a notification. Aaron reached for it first, but Sharon grabbed it. Her sharp intake of breath told him everything. "What is it?" Aaron asked. Sharon turned the phone screen toward him, hand shaking. There on Facebook was the photo Miller had taken at Marcus's funeral, posted with a caption that made Aaron's blood boil. "One less troublemaker in East Ridge. Who's next? Blue Lives Matter." Aaron caught himself pacing the room. His military training kicked in, channeling rage into focused energy. Sharon scrolled through the comments, each one worse than the last. Miller's supporters flooded the post with racist remarks and threats. How can he just post that? Sharon's voice cracked. That's my husband. That's Marcus. Aaron stopped pacing, expression determined. Because he thinks he's untouchable, but he just made a massive mistake. He pulled out his phone again, taking screenshots and sending them to Sarah Kimball and their media contacts. Within minutes, their secure messaging group lit up. Community members reported similar threats. The photo was spreading fast, drawing national outrage and attention. I need you to pack a bag, Aaron said, tone firm. Essentials only. You're staying at Sarah's house tonight. Sharon started to protest, but Aaron held up his hand. Miller's escalating. He's trying to intimidate us. That means our evidence is hitting a nerve. But I'm not taking any chances with your safety. As Sharon gathered her things, Aaron made calls. His Delta Force contacts promised extra security. Local supporters volunteered to watch the house in shifts. I feel like I'm running away, Sharon admitted, zipping up her overnight bag. Like I'm letting them win. Aaron took her hands gently. You're not running. You're being strategic. Remember what I told the protesters? We have to be smart about this fight. Just then, a car pulled up outside, Sarah Kimball's sedan. Aaron carefully scanned the street through the window before opening the door. I'll have the cameras installed before dawn, he told Sharon as he walked her to the car. And I'm setting up a safe house network. We're not just playing defense anymore. Sarah hugged Sharon before she got in. My guest room's ready, and I have some news about Miller's previous complaints you'll want to hear. Aaron watched until their taillights disappeared around the corner. Back inside, he began putting his security plans into motion, his mind racing with next steps. Miller's arrogance in posting that photo would be his downfall. But first, Aaron had to secure his family's safety. He worked through the night installing cameras, reinforcing locks, and coordinating with supporters. His phone buzzed every few minutes with updates about the growing outrage over Miller's post. Near dawn, Aaron returned to Sharon's room and sat in the armchair by her window, keeping vigil even though she wasn't there. The first sunlight crept across Marcus's photo on the bedside table, his bright smile a reminder of everything they were fighting for. Aaron's hands clenched the armrests. Miller and his corrupt colleagues had abused their power for too long, terrorizing families like his. That ended now. He would use every skill, every contact, every resource to expose their crimes and bring them to justice. Saturday morning cast long shadows through the stained glass of Mount Zion Baptist Church. In the basement, folding chairs scraped against concrete as community leaders filed in, faces set with determination. Aaron Taylor stood at a makeshift podium, his military bearing evident even in civilian clothes. Thank you all for coming, he began, scanning the room. Local business owners, church elders, teachers, and civil rights activists filled the space. We're here because what happened to Marcus isn't just about my family anymore. It's about every family in East Ridge living under a shadow of fear. Mrs. Washington, who owned the corner grocery store, raised her hand. They've doubled patrols past my shop, she said. Yesterday, they wrote me up for a code violation that doesn't exist. Aaron nodded, taking notes. That's exactly why we need to coordinate our response, he said. They want us scattered and afraid. We'll show them we're united and determined. A creak from the back stairs drew everyone's attention. Deputy Carlos Ramirez stood in the doorway, still in uniform, expression unreadable. The room tensed. Aaron noticed Ramirez's hand stayed away from his weapon, a deliberate choice to appear non-threatening. Deputy, Aaron said calmly, this is a public meeting. You're welcome to observe. Ramirez nodded once and took a seat in the back corner. Some people shifted their chairs away, while others whispered behind raised hands. Aaron refocused the group. We're planning a peaceful march next Saturday, he said, unrolling a map. 2 miles from the courthouse to City Hall. We'll need marshals every 50 feet, all trained in de-escalation. Reverend Matthews leaned forward. What about permits? They'll use any excuse to shut us down. Already submitted, Aaron replied. Judge Kimmel made sure the paperwork is bulletproof, but we must be ready for provocateurs. For the next hour, they detailed routes, emergency protocols, and media strategies. Aaron noticed Ramirez didn't take notes, but tracked every speaker, his expression growing troubled. Remember, Aaron emphasized, Phones out and recording at all times, from multiple angles. Document everything. He handed out laminated cards with legal aid numbers and civil rights attorney contacts. Mrs. Washington spoke again. What about Miller's supporters? They've been gathering at the gun shop after hours. We stay peaceful, Aaron insisted. No exceptions. That's how we win, by showing discipline they can't match. Throughout the planning, Aaron kept an eye on Ramirez. The deputy's fingers drummed nervously when Miller's name came up. His shoulders tensed at mentions of police misconduct. Most telling was how Ramirez avoided eye contact when specific incidents were discussed, as if he knew exactly what they were talking about. The meeting shifted to organizing medical stations and water distribution. Local nurses volunteered. Business owners offered their storefronts as safe havens. We'll need legal observers, Aaron said. Clearly marked yellow vests. Judge Kimmel is coordinating with the Bar Association. Ramirez shifted in his chair, and Aaron caught a flicker of guilt and resolve. The deputy's wedding ring glinted as he rubbed his thumb across it, a nervous gesture. As the meeting wound down, people broke into smaller groups, discussing assignments and exchanging contacts. Aaron watched Ramirez stand and hesitate, looking like he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Their eyes met briefly across the room. Aaron saw something in Ramirez's eyes, a conflict, maybe even a silent plea for understanding. He recognized that look from his military days, someone carrying a heavy burden, unsure how to let it go. Reverend Matthews approached with questions about the march route, breaking the moment. When Aaron glanced back, Ramirez was already climbing the stairs, his footsteps heavy and measured. The community leaders resumed their discussions, voices filled with purpose and hope. Aaron took part fully, but kept a part of his mind on Ramirez's behavior. The deputy's presence spoke volumes. He could have sent a junior officer or used informants, but he came himself and stayed for the entire meeting. We'll need more marshals for the north section, someone said, pointing to the map. Aaron agreed, jotting down notes, but his tactical mind was analyzing Ramirez as a potential ally. The deputy's body language showed discomfort with the situation, his silence more watchful than reporting. The basement slowly emptied as people left with their assignments. Aaron rolled up the maps, collected sign-up sheets, and mentally added Ramirez to his growing network of contacts. Sometimes, the strongest allies come from the most unexpected places. Mrs. Washington was the last to leave, pausing to squeeze Aaron's arm. Marcus would be proud of you, son. We all are. Aaron helped stack chairs, movements efficient and purposeful. The morning's meeting had met its goals. The march was taking shape, the community organizing, and maybe, just maybe, they'd found a crack in the blue wall of silence. The morning sun beat down on Main Street as hundreds gathered near the courthouse steps. News vans lined the curbs, satellite dishes reaching skyward like metal flowers. Cameras clicked and whirred while reporters did stand-ups, gesturing at the growing crowd behind them. Aaron Taylor stood at the front of the march, wearing a crisp white shirt and black tie. He checked his watch. 10:58 a.m. In 2 minutes, they would begin. Marshals in bright yellow vests were already spaced exactly 50 feet apart, as planned. CNN, ABC, NBC, Sharon whispered beside him, counting the network logos. Even Fox News had come. Aaron nodded, scanning the crowd. Signs rose above the sea of faces. Justice for Marcus Taylor, Stop Police Brutality, Black Lives Matter. Church groups stood shoulder to shoulder with college students. Local business owners marched alongside retired teachers. The crowd's diversity sent a powerful message. At exactly 11 a.m., Reverend Matthews raised his bullhorn. Let us begin with a prayer. The crowd fell silent, heads bowed. Even reporters lowered their microphones respectfully. As the march started, Aaron's military training kicked in. He noticed everything. The police positioned at intersections, unmarked cars trailing alongside, photographers on rooftops. Most importantly, he spotted Officer Brad Miller standing with a group near City Hall, his stance aggressive even from 2 blocks away. The marchers moved as one body, steps measured and dignified. They sang, "We Shall Overcome," the familiar melody carrying across downtown East Ridge. Sharon held Aaron's hand tightly, her other arm linked with their mother's. "Water station ahead," Aaron murmured into his radio. Marshals smoothly guided people to volunteers handing out bottles. The summer heat was intense, but they were prepared. Medical teams in red vests watched for signs of heat exhaustion. Halfway to City Hall, Aaron noticed Deputy Ramirez standing apart from the other officers. Unlike his riot gear-clad colleagues, Ramirez wore his regular uniform. His eyes met Aaron's briefly, then slid away. The crowd grew larger as more people joined from side streets. Aaron estimated nearly 1,000 participants now. News helicopters circled overhead, capturing the massive turnout, a river of humanity flowing through East Ridge's heart. As they approached City Hall, tension rose. A line of police officers stood at the top of the steps. Miller was front and center, his hand resting on his weapon, a smirk playing at his lips. Aaron raised his voice. "Remember what we practiced, dignity and discipline." The marchers stopped exactly where planned, filling the plaza, but keeping clear paths to the streets. Aaron stepped up to the portable podium, adjusting the microphone. "We gather today, not in hatred but in hope," he began, eyes sweeping the crowd. "Not in violence but in righteous determination." The crowd fell silent. News cameras swung toward him. As Aaron spoke, he kept an eye on the police line. Miller's smirk faded, replaced by something darker. But it was Ramirez who caught Aaron's attention. The deputy was slowly making his way down the steps, weaving casually between groups of officers. Aaron's speech lasted exactly 12 minutes as planned. Other community leaders took turns at the podium, while Aaron coordinated with marshals through his earpiece. The crowd stayed peaceful but energized, a powerful testament to the community's unity. Near the rally's end, as people began dispersing in organized groups, Aaron felt a brush against his arm. Deputy Ramirez passed by, his movement so smooth it seemed accidental, but Aaron felt the small USB drive pressed firmly into his palm. "Check your 6, Ramirez muttered, then melted into the crowd before Aaron could respond. The afternoon blurred with interviews, coordination, and making sure everyone got home safe. It was past midnight when Aaron finally sat at his laptop in the quiet kitchen, the USB drive feeling heavy in his hand. Following his military training, he ran a virus scan before plugging it in. A folder opened automatically, revealing dozens of files. Aaron's breath caught as he clicked through audio recordings of private police meetings, internal emails discussing cover-ups, and dashcam footage that was supposedly lost. And there, in a folder labeled simply Miller, was the officer's complete disciplinary record. Aaron's hand stayed steady as he opened the first file. Multiple complaints of excessive force, all mysteriously dismissed. Racist comments documented by fellow officers, then buried. A pattern of targeting black-owned businesses with citations. Most damning of all was Miller's body cam footage from the day Marcus died, showing a very different story than the official report. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence as Aaron methodically reviewed each document. Reports of planted evidence, witness statements never brought to court. A network of corruption laid bare in megabytes and metadata. Ramirez had given them everything they needed. Aaron could almost hear Marcus's voice. "The truth always comes out, big brother. Always." He started organizing the files, creating backups and noting which would be most useful to their lawyers. The evidence was overwhelming, but they had to handle it carefully. One wrong move could jeopardize everything. The USB drive glowed faintly in his laptop's port, a tiny beacon of hope in the dark kitchen. Outside, crickets chirped in the humid night air, and somewhere in the distance, a police siren wailed. The kitchen table groaned under laptops, documents, and coffee cups. Aaron rubbed his tired eyes as the microwave clock blinked 4:47 a.m. Sarah Kimball sat beside him, reading glasses perched on her nose, sorting through printed emails. "These payment records are damning," Sarah whispered, sliding a document toward Aaron. "Look at these deposits to Miller's offshore account. They line up perfectly with harassment complaints from black business owners." Aaron's secure phone buzzed with a signal from his Delta Force team. He stepped onto the back porch where crickets still chirped in the pre-dawn darkness. Ghost 6 secure, a familiar voice crackled through the encrypted line. Martinez, good to hear you, Aaron replied softly. We've got your 6, brother. The team's already working. Rodriguez cracked their network firewall an hour ago. Watson's running financial traces. Chen's got surveillance on Miller and his crew. Aaron leaned against the porch railing. I appreciate this. It's not exactly standard operating procedure. Nothing standard about watching a brother's killer walk free, Martinez said. We take care of our own. Chen added, This is better training than any exercise we've run. Back inside, Sarah organized files into neat stacks, red sticky notes marking crucial evidence. Aaron's childhood friend, Marcus Johnson, a computer forensics expert, hunched over his laptop. The whole system's rotten, Marcus muttered, fingers flying across the keyboard. Look at these deleted records. Every time a complaint came in against Miller or his buddies, it got flagged for special handling, then vanished into digital nowhere. Aaron's mother appeared with fresh coffee and homemade biscuits. She'd been up all night, refusing to rest while they worked. You all need to eat, she insisted, voice warm but worried. The sky was just beginning to lighten when Aaron's burner phone vibrated. A text from Ramirez. Garden Center. 30 மனிதர்கள். Come alone. Keep working. Aaron told the others. I've got a meeting. The garden center's parking lot was empty except for a beat-up pickup truck. Aaron parked behind it, scanning for surveillance. Ramirez emerged from behind mulch bags, carrying a black duffel bag. I had to wait until Miller's shift ended, Ramirez said quietly. He's been watching me like a hawk. Aaron took the bag, unzipping it carefully. Inside lay Miller's backup service weapon, wrapped in an evidence bag. The ballistics will match Marcus's wounds, Ramirez explained. Miller switched weapons after the shooting, Ramirez continued. Reported this one stolen 2 days later, but I found it in his locker last night. There was more. A thick manila envelope containing internal affairs reports, buried witness statements, and Miller's personal notebook with notes about Marcus and the community. Ramirez's voice cracked. I should have done something sooner. You're doing something now, Aaron said firmly. That counts. Back at the house, Sarah examined the new evidence with growing excitement. This is it, Sarah said, holding up Miller's notebook. His own words prove premeditation and racial bias. Combined with the financial records and deleted complaints, Marcus Johnson looked up from his laptop. I've mapped out the entire chain of cover-ups, Chief Thompson, the police union president, even 2 city council members. They're all implicated. Aaron's secure phone buzzed again. Ghost 6 here. We found their blackmail files. They've been extorting business owners, witnesses, even other cops, sending everything to your secure server now. Sarah gathered the most crucial documents into her briefcase. I'm meeting Gloria Washington in an hour, she said. Best civil rights attorney in 3 states. She's been waiting for a case like this. Aaron's mother brought more coffee, hands steady now. Marcus always said the truth would come out, she murmured. He believed in justice, even at the end. The sun was fully up as Sarah prepared to leave. The evidence they'd gathered overnight filled 3 boxes and 2 encrypted hard drives. Aaron helped load everything into her car. This is more than just Miller now, Sarah said, eyes bright with purpose. This is about dismantling a whole system of corruption. Are you ready for that fight? Aaron thought of Marcus, Sharon's tears, and all the families who'd suffered in silence. More than ready, Sarah said, patting his arm. Gloria's office opens at 8. By noon, we'll have a legal team assembled. She smiled for the first time in days. Well, let's just say some people in East Ridge won't be sleeping well. Through the kitchen window, Aaron saw his mother hugging Marcus Johnson. Both cried and laughed at once, the weight of the evidence and the strength of their allies making it feel like the tide was finally turning. Ramirez's burner phone buzzed one last time. Miller's getting nervous. Keep watching your backs. Aaron deleted the message, knowing their case was growing stronger by the hour. Morning light streamed through the windows, warming the stack of documents that would change everything. The sun hadn't yet burned through East Ridge's humidity when the first news vans arrived. By noon, satellite trucks lined Main Street, antennas reaching skyward like metal trees. Reporters clutched microphones, sweat gleaming on their faces as they delivered updates to cameras. Breaking news from East Ridge, Mississippi, a CNN reporter announced, her blazer dark with perspiration. Governor Williams has just called for a full investigation into the death of Marcus Taylor and allegations of systemic corruption within the East Ridge Police Department. Inside the Taylor home, Aaron and Sharon watched the coverage unfold on their living room TV. The governor's press conference played on every channel, his stern face filling the screen. "The evidence presented to my office is deeply disturbing," Governor Williams declared. "I've ordered the State Bureau of Investigation to conduct a thorough review, effective immediately. Officer Brad Miller is suspended pending the outcome." Sharon gripped Aaron's hand. "They're finally listening," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Outside, car horns honked in celebration. Neighbors gathered on porches, sharing the news through phone calls and excited shouts. Children rode bikes up and down the street, ringing their bells. The police station's front steps became a media circus. Cameras captured Miller surrendering his badge and gun, his face twisted with rage. The police chief stood beside him, pale and shaken. "This is a witch hunt," Miller spat at reporters. "These accusations are completely false. That soldier boy comes home, and suddenly everyone believes his lies." But the evidence spoke louder than Miller's denials. Local news ran special reports detailing the corruption Sarah and Aaron had uncovered. Business owners stepped forward, sharing stories of harassment and extortion. As evening approached, the Taylor family street filled with well-wishers. People brought food, hugs, and tears of joy. Sharon's students arrived with their parents, carrying hand-drawn signs reading, "Justice for Mr. Taylor," and "Thank you, Mr. Aaron." The celebration was short-lived. The police union held their own press conference at sunset. Their spokesman, red-faced and combative, painted a different picture. "Aaron Taylor is no hero," he declared. "He's a military-trained agitator stirring unrest in our peaceful community. His time overseas has clearly radicalized him. We have evidence suggesting he's planning violent actions against law enforcement." The local news ate it up. Suddenly, coverage shifted. Old photos of Aaron in combat gear appeared on screen. Headlines asked, "Protector or threat?" The word militant crept into every report. Sharon paced the living room furious. "They're trying to make you look dangerous after everything you've done to keep things peaceful." Aaron remained calm, jaw tightening. "They're scared. This is what they always do when they're losing control." Around midnight, the street finally quieted. Sharon washed dishes, the TV murmuring in the background. Suddenly, police lights flashed through the windows. "Aaron Taylor!" a voice boomed through a megaphone. "Come out with your hands up!" Sharon dropped a plate, ceramics shattering across the floor. Aaron rose slowly, raising his hands where the officers could see them through the windows. "Stay inside," he told Sharon firmly. "Call Sarah, then call Martinez." "Aaron, please!" Sharon's voice broke with fear. "It's all part of the process," he assured her, though his heart pounded. "They can't hide the truth anymore, no matter what they do to me." Carefully, he opened the front door. Blinding flashlight beams hit him. Officers crouched behind car doors, weapons drawn as if facing a dangerous criminal. "On your knees!" someone shouted. "Hands behind your head!" Aaron complied, movements deliberate and calm. Through the door, he heard Sharon crying, picturing her watching in horror. The handcuffs bit into his wrists as an officer read him his rights: charges of conspiracy, inciting violence, and interference with law enforcement. The accusations were as ridiculous as they were predictable. They forced his head down and pushed him into the back of a patrol car. Through the window, he saw Sharon on the porch, phone pressed to her ear, tears streaming down her face. The holding cell was cold, smelling of bleach. Aaron sat on the metal bench, back straight despite exhaustion. Hours passed. Through the small window in his cell door, he saw the sky beginning to lighten. Then he heard it, voices growing louder, chanting, "Free Aaron Taylor! Free Aaron Taylor!" The sound echoed through the station corridors. Feet stomped on pavement. Cars honked in rhythm with the chants. An officer hurried past, speaking urgently into his radio. "We've got at least 200 protesters out front. News crews are arriving. We need backup." Aaron closed his eyes, listening to his community rise up. Even inside this cell, he could feel the tide of justice rising. Miller might have his badge, the union might have their lies, but the truth held a power all its own. The chants grew louder, hundreds of voices becoming thousands. Free Aaron Taylor! Free Aaron Taylor! Through his window, Aaron watched the sunrise paint the cell wall gold. Outside, his people marched, united and unafraid. They knew, as he did, this arrest wasn't the end. It was just another step on the long road to justice. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the interrogation room as Aaron sat perfectly still, military training evident in his posture. Two detectives circled him like sharks, their questions aggressive and repetitive. "Who are your contacts overseas?" Detective Brooks demanded, slamming his palm on the metal table. "What's your real agenda here?" Aaron's voice remained steady. "My only agenda is justice for my brother." Behind the two-way mirror, Sharon and Sarah watched, faces tight with worry. Sarah scribbled notes furiously while Sharon pressed her hand against the glass. "We need to get him out," Sharon whispered. "They're trying to break him." Sarah squeezed her shoulder. "My contacts at the ACLU are already working on it, and reporters are waiting outside for statements." Detective Mills leaned close to Aaron's face. "We have evidence you're planning attacks on police stations. Domestic terrorism charges carry heavy sentences." Aaron didn't flinch. "You have nothing because I've done nothing wrong. Every protest I've organized has been peaceful." Across town, in a dimly lit hotel room, 3 men hunched over laptops, Aaron's former Delta Force teammates, Martinez, Chen, and Wilson. Their fingers flew across keyboards, digging deep into police union servers. "Got something?" Chen muttered, eyes reflecting years of illegal payments, kickbacks, bribes, and money laundering. Martinez nodded, downloading files. The union's been running a protection racket, collecting fees from businesses to avoid harassment. Wilson grabbed his secure phone. "I'm calling our FBI contact now. This is exactly what they need." Back at the jail, Sarah addressed a crowd of protesters and media. Her voice carried across the courthouse steps, clear and commanding. "Aaron Taylor is a decorated war hero who came home to seek justice for his murdered brother," she declared. "His arrest is a desperate attempt to silence the truth." Sharon stepped to the microphone next, her teacher's voice steady despite her fear. "My brother-in-law has shown this community how to fight injustice with dignity and discipline. His only weapon has been the truth." Inside the jail, Aaron was returned to his cell. Hours crawled by like molasses. He did push-ups to stay warm, counting under his breath to keep focused. Suddenly, the station erupted with activity. Aaron heard raised voices, doors slamming, rapid footsteps. Through his cell window, he saw FBI agents in windbreakers moving through corridors, carrying boxes of evidence. "Federal agents," a voice boomed through the station. "Everyone stay at your desks. This is now a federal investigation." Local officers looked stunned as agents seized computers and files. In the evidence room, technicians photographed and cataloged years of buried complaints against Miller and others. Sarah burst into the station, waving court papers. "I have a federal order for Aaron Taylor's immediate release. All charges are suspended pending investigation." The cell door clanged open. Aaron stepped out, rolling his shoulders to release tension. Sarah hugged him fiercely. "This is it," Sarah whispered, holding up Miller's notebook. His own words reveal premeditation and racial bias. Marcus Johnson looked up from his laptop. "I've mapped the entire cover-up. Chief Thompson, the police union president, even 2 city council members. They're all involved." Aaron's phone buzzed. "Ghost 6 here. We found their blackmail files, extorting business owners, witnesses, even cops. Sending everything to your secure server now." Sarah packed the crucial documents. "I'm meeting Gloria Washington in an hour, best civil rights attorney in 3 states. She's been waiting for a case like this." Aaron's mother brought coffee, her hands steady. "Marcus believed the truth would come out," she said softly. "He believed in justice, even in the end." The sun rose as Sarah prepared to leave, loaded with 3 boxes and 2 encrypted hard drives filled with evidence. "This is bigger than Miller," Sarah said, eyes shining with purpose. "It's a system-wide fight. Ready?" Aaron thought of Marcus, Sharon's tears, and all the silent sufferers. "More than ready," Sarah said with a smile. Gloria's office opens at 8. By noon, we'll have a legal team. Aaron watched his mother and Marcus Johnson embrace, tears and laughter mingling as hope finally grew. Ramirez's burner phone buzzed once more. Miller's nervous. Stay alert. Aaron deleted the message, knowing their case grew stronger by the hour. The morning sun hadn't burned through East Ridge's humidity when news vans arrived. Satellite trucks lined Main Street like metal trees. Reporters, sweating, delivered updates live. Breaking news. Governor Williams orders a full investigation into Marcus Taylor's death and systemic corruption in East Ridge PD, a CNN reporter announced. Aaron and Sharon watched in their living room as the governor spoke on every channel. The evidence is deeply disturbing. I've ordered the State Bureau of Investigation to begin a thorough review immediately. Officer Brad Miller is suspended pending the outcome. Sharon gripped Aaron's hand, tears falling. They're finally listening, she whispered. Outside, neighbors celebrated, car horns honking, children ringing bike bells, families sharing the news. At the police station, cameras caught Miller surrendering his badge and gun, rage twisting his face. The police chief looked pale beside him. This is a witch hunt, Miller Street. These lies started when that soldier boy came home. But the evidence spoke louder. Local news ran exposés on the corruption Aaron and Sarah uncovered. Business owners shared their stories. That evening, the Taylor family's street filled with well-wishers. Food, hugs, tears of joy. Sharon's students arrived with parents, holding hand-drawn signs, "Justice for Mr. Taylor," and "Thank you, Mr. Aaron." The celebration was short-lived. At sunset, the police union held their own press conference. Their spokesman, red-faced and combative, declared, "Aaron Taylor is no hero. He's a military-trained agitator stirring unrest. His overseas service has radicalized him. We have evidence he plans violent acts against law enforcement." The media pounced. Old photos of Aaron in combat gear flashed on screen. Headlines asked, "Protector or threat?" The word militant echoed in every report. Sharon paced, furious. "They're trying to paint you as dangerous after everything you've done to keep peace." Aaron stayed calm, jaw tight. "They're scared. This is their usual tactic when losing control." Around midnight, the street finally quieted. Sharon washed dishes, TV murmuring in the background. Suddenly, flashing police lights filled the windows. "Aaron Taylor, come out with your hands up," a voice boomed through a megaphone. Sharon dropped a plate. Ceramic shattered across the floor. "You're under arrest, Brad Miller," a voice rang out from the crowd as FBI agents pushed through, weapons drawn. Local police cruisers arrived, lights flashing, turning the scene into a grim stage. The crowd's phones captured every moment as agents handcuffed Miller. The bravado was gone. Now he was sobbing. "You don't understand," he blubbered as they lifted him. "They were ruining everything." Sharon and Mrs. Taylor appeared with Sarah Kimball, already coordinating with the FBI. News vans pulled up, reporters rushing toward the unfolding drama. "Are you hurt?" Sharon asked, checking Aaron for injuries. "I'm fine," he assured her, eyes on Miller being loaded into a police car. "It's really over now." The crowd swelled, filling the parking lot, phones still recording as Miller was driven away. The night crackled with excitement and relief. The convenience store owner emerged, surveying the damage but smiling broadly. That was something else, he told Aaron. Like watching one of those action movies. Except this time, it was real justice. At the courthouse, reporters swarmed Aaron and Sharon. The jury had deliberated less than 3 hours before finding Brad Miller guilty on all counts. Camera flashes lit the cloudy afternoon as the Taylor family emerged victorious. "Justice has been served," Aaron said firmly, his arm around Sharon's shoulders. "But this is just the beginning of real change in East Ridge." The conviction sent shockwaves through the town. Within days, the governor appointed a special oversight committee. The corrupt police chief resigned in disgrace. Officers with abuse records were suspended pending investigation. The old guard was crumbling. 2 weeks later, hundreds gathered in Marcus Taylor Memorial Park, renamed in his honor. The crisp autumn air filled rows of chairs, many attendees wearing t-shirts with Marcus's smiling face. Children played near a new playground while parents found their seats. Aaron stood at the podium, looking out at familiar faces. Sharon sat in the front row with their mother, both dressed in purple, Marcus's favorite color. Judge Sarah Kimball and Deputy Ramirez joined the crowd. "My brother Marcus believed in this community," Aaron began, voice strong and clear. "He saw the best in people, even when they couldn't see it in themselves. As a guidance counselor, Marcus changed lives not through force, but through understanding and compassion." Aaron paused, touching a folded paper in his pocket, but choosing instead to speak from the heart. "The past months have tested us all. We've faced hatred, corruption, and violence. But look around you today." He gestured to the crowd. "Look at how we've come together, not just to tear down what was broken, but to build something better." Heads nodded, some wiped tears away. "The Marcus Taylor Memorial Scholarship Fund will help students who share my brother's dream of helping others afford college. Local businesses have already pledged over $50,000. Aaron smiled at Sharon, who had led the fundraising efforts. "The new Community Oversight Board will hold our reformed police department accountable. And the training center we're building will teach conflict resolution and de-escalation to officers and civilians alike." A gentle breeze rustled through the trees as Aaron continued. "But Marcus would want us to do more than remember him. He'd want us to remember what he stood for: dignity for every person, education opening doors, and change coming through unity and persistence, not violence." In the back, Aaron spotted his Delta Force teammates who had helped expose corruption. They stood quietly, letting the community take center stage in its healing. "Today, we're not just honoring my brother's memory," Aaron said. "We're committing ourselves to his vision of what East Ridge can be, a place where justice is more than a word, but a reality, where our children can walk without fear, and where badges and uniforms represent protection, not oppression." Sharon stood and joined Aaron at the podium. Her voice was strong, despite tears. "Marcus always said real change happens one heart at a time. Today, I see hundreds of hearts beating together, for justice, for peace, for a better tomorrow." That's his true legacy. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. Children released purple balloons into the sky. The new community choir, another of Marcus's dreams, began to sing, "Lift every voice and sing." After the ceremony, people lingered, sharing memories and plans for the future. The atmosphere was different, hopeful, determined, united. Where there was once fear and division, now there was purpose and solidarity. As the sun set, Aaron walked through the quiet cemetery. Purple and white flowers decorated Marcus's grave, alongside notes, photos, and a basketball signed by the team he coached. Aaron knelt by the headstone, tracing his brother's name with a gentle finger. "We did it, little brother," he whispered. "Miller's going away for a long time. The old system's been torn down. Your kids will grow up in a different East Ridge." Behind him, footsteps crunched on autumn leaves. Sharon, his mother, and several community members approached quietly, each carrying a candle. They formed a circle around the grave, flames flickering in the dusk. "The fight's not over," Aaron said, rising to join the circle. "But we're not fighting alone anymore. Your spirit brought us together. Your love made us stronger." Sharon squeezed his hand gently. His mother began humming Marcus's favorite hymn, and others joined in. Their voices rose soft and clear in the evening air, a promise of vigilance, unity, and hope. The candles glowed brighter as darkness fell, just as Marcus's legacy now lit the way forward for his beloved community. Here, in this quiet moment of triumph, justice was served, not just in courtrooms and convictions, but through the transformation of hearts and minds. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Meanwhile, I've handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you'll love. Have a great day.